The idea of using a lot of cats and dogs to fund transportation improvements for the next 2 or 3 years, I don't think that's a good outcome. And I'm not a Congress of one. If I were, I would go back and say that we should look at least for the next 6 years, user fees. And we have been using user fees, a tax on gas and diesel, for a long time to provide for most of the federal share for these transportation construction projects and improvements. I think the last time we raised the federal gas tax was 1993. We raised it to 18.3%, and we raised at the same time the diesel tax to 24.3 cents per gallon, and we've not raised either of those for over 22 years. Since that time, the cost of asphalt, the cost of concrete, the cost of labor, the cost of steel have all gone up. But the user fee, the gas tax, the diesel tax, have not gone up at all. George Voinovich, former governor, former senator here, and I worked together about 5 or 6 years ago with the Bowles-Simpson Commission to suggest an increase in the gas diesel tax by a penny a quarter, penny every 3 months, for about 15 quarters, which would be roughly saying 3 or 4 cents a year for 4 years, and to then index the gas tax after that to the rate of inflation, so we don't have to come back and readdress it every year or 2 or 3 or 4 years. That is an idea that was actually adopted in the Bowles-Simpson report, but the Bowles-Simpson report, much of what it's included, has not been enacted. One of the things I'm going to be doing, and I hope with colleagues in the House and as well as in the Senate within the next day or two, is to introduce an increase in the gas and diesel tax of 4 cents a year for the next 4 years. That would be 16 cents over the next 4 years, and to then index the gas tax and the diesel tax to the rate of inflation. What would that cost the average family? What would that cost the average family, the average driver in this country? On a weekly basis, it would be I think about $2, actually less than $2. I don't know what people pay for a cup of coffee, but I'm told that you can I bought a cup of coffee today for $1.70. Some people buy it for less. Some people buy it for $2 or more. But for roughly a cup of coffee a week, we could have better roads, highways, bridges, a whole lot better. And by doing that, we would raise over the next 10 years $180 billion, $180 billion, and maybe even more, to be able to provide for our construction needs, roads, highways, bridges, and transit. We have the system in place. We know how to do it. And the price of gasoline, I bought gas the other day down in central Delaware in Dover, and we paid $2.53 a gallon. It's down by about 20 cents over the last month. If the Iran deal actually goes through and is approved, the Iranians are expected to add to a world already awash in oil, where the prices of oil coming down. But the Iranians would add, I'm told, about another 500 million barrels of oil to the marketplace, and probably continuing to push down the price of oil. And so I would ask us to keep that in mind. Some people say we'd never be able to get the votes for an increase in the gas or diesel tax, even if it's phased in 4 cents a year for 4 years. But there were 6 states last year across the country, most of them with Republican governors and Republican legislatures, who did something like this, And they didn't raise the gas tax by $1 or 50 cents or even 25 cents, but they raised it in some cases over several years. And the question is, can state legislators or members of the Congress actually vote to meet our transportation needs? Can you actually vote for this stuff and get reelected? And as it turns out, 95% of the Republicans in these 6 states, in the state legislatures, 95% of the Republican legislators who voted for these user fee increases won their primaries last year. They won their generals. They were reelected. And among the Democrats who voted in those 6 states last year to raise user fees, 90% of them won their primaries. They won their general election. They were reelected. And for people to say you can't vote for doing tough things and still get reelected, I would just say, look at those 6 states from last year. And other states are going to do it, follow in their footsteps this year as well.